I'm often asked whether I believe the creation account in the first chapter of Genesis should be understood as a literal six-day creation. Some Christians believe that if a person doesn't believe that God created everything in 6 literal days, then they are denying both God and the Bible. But it is important to remember that some parts of the Bible are intended to be understood literally, and some parts are intended to be understood figuratively. In fact, some 40% of the Bible consists of poetry and metaphors, and these are intended to be taken figuratively, not literally. And the figurative parts are every bit as true as the literal parts. For example, God is not a literal hen, rock, tower, or shepherd, even though the Bible describes God in such terms. We have to remember that the writer of Genesis 1 lived at a time when common oral and eventually written traditions included mythic creation epics that presented the stars, the planets, the sun, moon, land, sea, and animals as gods. Some of these creation epics began with a primordial mound out of which the first god springs, who then in one way or another produces the other gods. Another variation has the sea as the first god. Such epics were the standard approach to explaining the origin of the known universe. Contrast that with the creation story in Genesis 1. The Genesis account uses the standard style of creation epics of the ancient world, but it makes the radical declaration that the God of Israel, completely unlike all the pagan gods, did not spring from anything, nor was he ever part of the universe. Quite the contrary. Genesis declares that this God created everything out of nothing, simply by the power of his word. Each of the things thought of by the pagans as being gods is systematically presented in Genesis as having been created by this God, and then being declared good by this God, demonstrating his utter power over them. In other words, Genesis 1 is about the who of creation and not so much the how. Genesis 1 is making a profound theological statement to us about who God is as creator in contrast to the gods of the nations. We should not try to interpret as providing us some kind of literal scientific record of how and when God did it. The biblical revelation tells us that the God who revealed himself to Israel and who has revealed himself to humanity in Jesus Christ is the creator of all that exists. This means that nothing factual that science can say about the universe needs to be in conflict with the biblical revelation, as long as the scientific interpretation doesn't conclude that God is not the creator of all that exists. Scientists, using whatever evidence is available, seek to better understand the wonders of the amazing universe God has brought into being. Since God is the creator of all that is, whatever science finds to be true about the universe or about life itself is simply a discovery about some aspects of what God has done. As Christians, we have no need to be afraid or skeptical about what science discovers, because all truth is God's truth, and all true science is God's science. I'm Joseph Tkach, speaking of life.